All right. I hope you've had a great day today. We've enjoyed having you here. We've enjoyed working with this program to get ready for you. We have a special event to cap off the evening, and I'm sure after that people will be headed for the hills and stuff. So I'll save any goodbyes for now. But I want to turn this over to the team from Providence United Methodist Church in Mt Juliet, Tennessee. They are in the shadow of the tornadoes that passed through the other night. They've taken their ministry to their community through special services in the evenings last week and such, and been a uniting force for them. Barry Sanders, who is here, so I'm going to turn the mic over to introduce the rest of his team, is also a employee of Spectrum Sound and a longtime member of the Nashville Pro Audio community. And we really thank everything they've done to kick into this, and for him to drag his wonderful team out here and their willingness to come and share with you tonight. So let's talk about producing worship.
Yeah. Frank, thank you. Once again, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. I'm sure it's been a really good day, full of all kinds of things to learn, things to remember you might not have thought about for a while, and learning about technical. But tonight we're going to talk about sort of more the spirit of worship and producing worship in that sense. And so I just want to start off with a prayer, if you don't mind. So if you would just please bow with me. So Father God, I just want to thank you for this evening. Thank you for everyone that's here. Thank you for all the things that we've heard, the things that we're learning to help us bring your voice to our congregation. So Lord, just please bless our time together. And we just are looking forward to enjoying the rest of the evening. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so got a little bit of PowerPoint to start with, but basically we're going to talk about how to uncover the how and why using the arts and technology to bring worship, to produce worship, to use a term. And so I'm going to do this, and I'll bring up our team members. So basically at 16 so most of us learn how to drive a car, right? So you sort of learn the basics of driving a car, starting and stopping, and turn signals. They are to be used when you're changing lanes, just so you know. So turn signals, changing your gears, watching the road, even doing basic maintenance, that type of thing. So once you have these skills, you can be independent, right? You can take the car and go wherever you want to go. And so as a technician in a house of worship, we're doing something similar with the skills that we've learned up to this point, right? So we know how to set up a system. We know how to adjust gain. We know how to use plugins. We know how to deal with wireless or how to deal with video or the different things that our pastors are asking us to do. So it's a similar type of a process. So all this is the technical skill, right? That technical skill is supposed to bring us to a goal, worship. Okay. So what does that mean? And then how do we accomplish that? And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So So as an example, our team from Providence is here, part of our team. We're going to talk about our processes, our approach, basically kind of use it as a case study, if you like, on producing worship and how we do it. And just as a means of introduction for those of you that probably haven't heard of Providence, I've got a little bit of a presentation here to run through. So let's see if we can step through some slides. It won't be too terribly long. So obviously the title, Beyond the Tech, Bringing in the Heart of Worship. So Providence, our first worship service was Easter of 2008 in a little place called Mundy Park. So it was an Easter sunrise service, and small attendees. We'll see some numbers here in just a minute. But we then moved into movie theater, and so we had preview services. So we were outside, now in a movie theater. And then September of 2008, we started our weekly services in Stoner Creek. And there's a picture of what it looked like, gathering in Stoner Creek. So Jim, a lot of us have been in this environment, right? Portable church. Should be pretty familiar. We moved into a middle school, West Wilson, in 2012, and we were there until 2016. And that's what that looked like. Once again, still in a gym. And here's where we are now. Audio? Tevin? Let it roll. It's just background music. Imagine wonderful music. going on in the background. I would sing for you, but you'd rather have someone else sing. So audio from podium? No audio from podium? Okay. Well, it'll be done here in a moment. It's got wonderful music, so it's just an example of what it looks like coming into our building, which is now 4 years old. It's better with music. Love, how great is our God. We all know that one. So it's a big difference meeting in your own facility than meeting in a gym where you're portable, where you're setting everything up, you're tearing it down. I thought it was became sort of a team building exercise as you're setting up and as you're tearing down. And yeah, we're laughing because it was tons of fun, wasn't it? Everything has to go in early, and then you do the services, and then you take it down. In September 2009, in between the two gyms that I showed you, we chartered. So that's when we officially became a chartered church, United Methodist Church, and we had our services. We went from one service to two services at that point. Okay, we had a brief period in Wilson Central High School when there was some construction going on at the middle school. So for the summer of 2013, and then 2016, we moved into what you just saw there. And this is what worship looks like now. So it's grown just a bit. So our vision is to see those who feel disconnected from God and the church find hope, healing, and wholeness in Jesus Christ. And we've been very blessed to have a team to create a worship environment. These are just a few pictures of some different worship services. It's technical, so we have to have a little bit of the mixer. And so here's attendance. We started in 2008, 252 people on average. And if you look down, you see it's grown. And then this year we're at 2,240. And we're doing 4 services a week, Thursday and then 3 on Sunday. And then other special services as well. So the church has been growing. It's very active. It is I would say a blended service. It's not entirely contemporary. It's definitely not entirely traditional. We have elements of both, more contemporary than not, but still sort of a blended service. Our congregation ranges from very young to much mature people. This is a quick shot of a laptop. We started a live stream ministry a year and a half ago, Jeana? About a year and a half ago. Once again, I'll just step through these last couple real quick. Okay, so as you can see, it's a pretty simple, straightforward set. That was Easter, I think, a year ago, out at front. It's a beautiful setting, but it's just a room. So what we're going to talk about now is God did it, is what we say. It's not something we did. But we're going to talk about how we went about doing all this. So if I could bring up Jeana Youngman. She is our worship pastor. She's been in church music ministry for 20 years. She's led both children's and adult choirs. She's developed and led worship bands. She's also a songwriter and an artist. 2 full-length albums have been released, Glimpse of Glory and The Girl with Good Intentions. And she's also a published author in your spare time, right? The book is called Scrambled Starts, Family Prayers for Morning, Bedtime, and Everything in Between. It's Upper Room Books. And Jenny leads the worship arts ministry at Providence, along with Jeana Cambell, who has to come up now. And Jenny's our worship pastor, and Jeana's our worship leader. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about what those titles actually mean here in a few minutes. But Jeana's a graduate of MTSU, excuse me, I'm slurring. She's worked in the commercial music business for quite some time. She's also served for about 20 years in church music ministries, including directing children's choirs, singing lead soprano in traditional choirs, and she's our lead singer at Providence. Also, she sung in several worship bands as lead singer. She also developed our live stream ministry. So if that's something you have interest in, we can talk about those things specifically as we move forward. Next, very important part of our team, Tevin Turner. Come on, Tevin. This is fun for him. He's normally back there without the microphone, so he gets to have a microphone now. He is our audio technician. And Tevin is a South Carolina native, just like me, which is good. Got his undergrad degree from Coastal Carolina University. And he was a student manager, assistant engineer in their Wheelwright Auditorium recording studio. And also the executive engineer for Athenium Press. And he was working specifically capturing and preserving the Gullah culture, primarily South Carolina area, yes? And all their contributions to music itself. So there's quite a bit there that a lot of us may not have heard of before. So something you definitely want to capture and preserve. He was also received his MFA, Master of Fine Arts, from MTSU. And when he was in grad school, he worked on live projects, studio projects, post-production, all while he was having fun being a graduate teaching assistant in the recording industry management department. He's also worked for the last 10 years as an audio tech for multiple artists and such. So he's got a little bit of experience in this audio world. So this is our primary team from Providence. And we're just going to have a conversation. I've got some questions. If you have questions that come up, raise your hand, let me know. We'll also have some time at the end where we can ask some questions. And we're going to sing a little bit at the end as well. So make sure you kind of warm your voices up as we go. All right. Okay, well, let's just start kind of at the beginning. Actually, first off, I just thought about this. The difference in the title. So worship pastor, worship leader. What does that actually mean in terms of reality?
Yeah, that's a good.
That's a good question, isn't it?
That's a good question. You know, what I think has been a unique aspect of the worship staff at Providence is that we have this sort of collaborative partnership. We're sort of two full-time worship employees that are sort of really centrally located in worship, not just in technical stuff. Functionally, how it's worked out is I sort of oversee and manage the band and the instruments, sort of everything that's on stage, all the people on stage. And Jeana has done sort of the tech booth and the pro presenter and all of that, managed all of that. All the while, she's our lead singer, so she is also physically on the stage, and we are all following her vocals. So we sort of collaborate on all the creative stuff, and then functionally we have a million things to do to make worship happen every week. So we go off and do our own things, but all the creative stuff is what's been such a joy to be collaborative together. And the titles, I don't think they mean anything except that I have been to seminary, and so they were like, hey, how about we'll call you pastor and we'll call her worship leader. So I think that's it. And so we both do spiritual formation for our team. We both are creative with our pastors and all of the thematic things that happen. But so
it's a very interesting way it's worked out, because I actually haven't asked you before about the differences. I know about seminary, and so pastor makes sense. But the way that y'all share responsibility is wonderful, because you're both able to do a number of different things to support what's going on, just top to bottom. Well, let's just talk about our processes. So really, it starts with planning, right? You got to kind of have some idea of what you want to do. So how does the planning process start? How does this all begin? Can you bring us into what you might be thinking, or the processes?
Sure, yeah. We have a wonderful pastoral staff, and they plan their sermon series about a year in advance. And so we are very integrated into that planning process as well. So we can look at scriptures that we're basing the sermon series on. We can think about musically what we would love our congregation to be singing. We don't try to plan, lockstep always in with that, but it's always in top of mind. And so we have 2 meetings per week with our pastoral staff, which is such a blessing. They love worship. We just have such a wonderful collaboration with them as well. And Jenny and I plan kind of a sermon series at a time, which could even be 4 to 6 weeks at a time. We try to plan musically that far in advance, our teams and all that. And we use Planning Center, which you probably are aware of. It's just wonderful. It's so easy. And that way we actually we plan everything, even our tech team, our speakers, our pastors that are speaking that week. Everything for the whole weekend is listed in Planning Center. So, yeah.
That's a great tool to use. So, are there specific elements that have to be included every week? Is there a format that we're following? Specific things that the pastors or one of the pastors wants to do for a certain series? Do we get requests like that, or do we have a standard format we're following? Or how is that done?
Yeah, we have a template in Planning Center that we've developed along with the pastors. So every weekend, it usually follows worship is 2 songs. We have announcements, sort of that standard. That doesn't really change from week to week. But we do update it as we need to. Sometimes we have baptism, sometimes we have people joining. There's always different elements that are going in. But we primarily have our services kind of follow the same kind of template every week.
So even for seasons different seasons of the church, we'll have a different set of things we need to be doing during those services, right? Okay. And the pastors are communicating that usually ahead of time.
Yes.
I say usually ahead of time.
Yes, usually. It's wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I have colleagues that are like, yeah, we know what's happening, 30 minutes before service. And that is, that can happen,
Right.
But we find that if we are planning far in advance, we're communicating well, we are nimble enough to adapt, to make changes on the fly. If a tornado comes, we can sort of put together a service really quickly because we just have a team that's so focused on worship and our church, and so that's really great.
I think too, just like jumping off that, the producing worship aspect of that is like what all we're doing all year long is like the producing part of it is like we're trying to work ahead so that we like being nimble and not being frantic are just different things. And so we've all probably been in a situation where it's like we're just throwing things together at the last minute, and then nobody is really worshiping. The musicians aren't worshiping. They're just like trying to make something happen. And the pastor is preaching, but everybody's like disheveled, and the sound guy is like, what's happening? It's just sort of, it can feel so frantic. And so we have found that the best case scenario is like, if we can do the hard work of work ahead, if we can plan as best we can with our pastors, if we can listen to their vision and then create on our end sonically what we want to create, and we have planned for that in all aspects, all the way to the sound and the variations of instrumentalists that we're going to have, then we are all free to experience the Spirit. We have freedom in the Spirit when we have done the production stuff ahead of time. And so that schedule is like, it's for the sake of a spirit of freedom in worship, and so that none of us are just like sweating and what's happening next, and do I know this? And it's like it has been such a gift, and that has been like the thing that we just want to share with people all the time in churches is just like if we can all agree that it just is such a benefit on a Sunday morning or whenever your worship time is, that we have worked ahead and we're all walking in here with such an openness to what God is going to do, then it's a gift to your team, and it's a gift to your church.
So with all that process, how much specific direction are you given by our pastors? I know that you know what the sermon series is coming because that's worked ahead. But are they coming to you with specific, I want to have this and this and this? Are they giving you the freedom to interpret what might be going on just in this planning stage? How much direction do you normally get?
I think in the beginning we got more direction than we do now. I mean, when you're new to a staff, we came on together. And when you're new to a staff, we're all sort of getting used to each other and getting used to each other's ideas. Now I think our pastoral team really has just like given just sort of all kinds of freedom to our creative collaborations. And we talk twice a week too. We have meetings twice a week where we're looking at the next Sunday, or we're looking at the next big event or something. And so we're having those conversations. So if they do have ideas, that they want to speak into it, sometimes they heard a song and they want us to do a version of it. Sometimes, they write a song and they want us to do it, or they want to have an element of silence, or they want to have, you know, just some aspect that we're just meeting twice a week to. We're in it together, but they totally give us freedom to, yeah.
How about from the sound standpoint? Is there a lot of direction that gets given to Tevin in the planning stage, or asking questions I know the answers to, but they don't?
That's a question for me.
It can be, yeah. I think so.
I mean, yeah, I kind of do get a good deal of direction. We've had conversations before about certain things that they are looking for and stuff that I need to pay attention to and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, that conversation's always there.
Excellent. So in this sort of planning process, in terms of sound, in terms of choices that will start to be made, is there a specific feel we're looking for? Is there a specific sound that we're trying to find? Is there anything like that? A mood that's trying to be expressed?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for sure, what you probably saw in the pictures too, it's like our church is not a black box, and we don't have lights and smoke machines and all of that. It's there's lots of light in the room, and it's multi-generational, and so we have to take that into consideration. We have a retirement community across the street, and so we have a lot of older people, you know, even a lot of people with hearing aids. So what we want to do is like do no harm, right? We want to create a place where everybody can walk in and not feel like the sound, they're just being oppressed by sound. But it's enough to where you can kind of get lost in it, in the sound, and you can experience worship in the space. And so I laugh because that's the conversation we're always having is like, yes, we do get feedback about technical things. We get like, it's too
But
loud.
not real feedback. Never any real feedback.
Never real
No.
feedback.
No
Comments
squealing feedback.
No
comments
feedback.
from our pastors about, you know, it's too loud, or I saw too many people adjusting hearing aids, or, you know, stuff like that.
I was looking at the video too. It's so interesting. Our room, just to kind of like talk a little bit more about what Jeana was talking about. We have windows, glass, concrete. And we walked in, and the building plan is already done when we were hired. And so we were in a gym. We were like this electronic drum kit in the gym, which was all we could kind of handle. And we were like, nope, we were having an acoustic kit. And then Barry's like wanting to kill us because he's like, how are we going to contain this drum? You know, how are we going to do it? And so in the video, we built this massive cage, which looks like a dunk tank, you know.
Yeah,
So we tried
yeah,
all
there's an
these
aquarium.
different things. You know, our board of trustees didn't want to put up the correct acoustical treatment that Barry and Spectrum recommended, you know. So there's like all these factors, you know. So Barry and Tevin have worked so hard to make the drums sound beautiful. We don't even have any plexi up anymore. So they've worked so hard to integrate that beautiful drum sound in with everything else that's going on. And so, but that was a challenge. I mean, that took time.
It was a challenge.
Yeah.
It was a challenge. We had a lot of conversations about that, and that's something I see commonly posted in Facebook and such, is talking about drums. You know, how do you deal with drums? What do you do? And drummers, for the most part, just don't like electronic drums. So that's kind of a given. They don't feel the same. They don't sound the same. They can work really, really well if they're done properly. However, there's nothing like a real drum kit, right? I mean, it's awesome to have that in the sanctuary. So we're also blessed with some excellent drummers that are able to play to the room, and the communication between everyone is key. And we'll talk even further about communication. But as part of sort of the soundscape or the sonic environment, and we're focusing primarily on sound this evening. But as part of that, kind of how do we get there? Just in terms of like through song choices or arrangement choices, keys, musicians, that type of thing. How does that process go when you're putting together the worship service and putting these elements all in place?
What we really want to do is like that emphasis on a spirit of freedom and worship, and that it feels like everyone who is in the room can have a point of connection with God. We want to create space for that, and so our song choices are varied. We really do. we don't do like the whole thing about contemporary or traditional or whatever. We really just, we are a band. I mean, all of our songs have a, they're accompanied by a band, but it might just be keys and cello. It might be just keys and electric guitar. It might be some, but we're singing hymns. We're singing current songs. We're writing our own songs. Really what we're doing is just, we also, again, we know what the pastor's preaching on, months in advance. And so we're imagining sort of a start to finish experience that can sort of soak our people in that theme, and not to be trite or sort of cliche by connecting every song lyric to the sermon or whatever, but just like a nod to generally this is what's happening when we're choosing songs. We're trying to choose songs that sing to all the persons of the Trinity, and also are very much us. We're singing to God. This group of people here singing to God, for God. We're also we are really conscious about putting words in the mouths of our people. So when we're choosing songs, we're thinking like, let's put these words in their mouth and see if that feels like what we need this week or for this sermon series. So those are song choices, but arrangement choices, again, it's like we are so varied. So we'll do sort of like a nod to gospel. We'll do a nod to country. We'll do a nod to sort of the modern worship scene. What we don't do which is we're probably kind of rare at this point. I mean, probably a lot of you guys use like Ableton Live and main stage patches and all of this. We just are sort of really blessed to have all the players, and so we just put the live people up there to play all the parts. And also we're in Nashville, so it's a lot of session players, and so everyone, they bring their own creativity, and so we don't necessarily try to recreate a record and do that on Sunday morning. We sort of just chart the song, and just sort of everybody leans into their creativity, and that has been a beautiful thing. So that's like our arrangements, but I can't. Does that say what you asked?
Yes, actually it does. Is there a consideration of in terms of helping to encourage the congregation to engage, the keys choices?
The keys are always we're always changing a key, because a song on the radio is like not going to work in a room. Nobody ever sings a song in a key that everybody can sing it in, right? So we're gonna adjust. Also, right now in modern worship music, like a lot of songwriters are doing the thing where you do this like octave jump, where like it starts really low and then like later everybody's screaming, right? And so we sort of, like, as a general rule, we sort of take that out, just to make it like my grandma can sing it and my 10-year-old can sing it, and we're all just sort of, and we have what we do is build the arc instrumentally instead of build the arc of the song with just the single vocal. So that's just something that is like just sort of a style that we've taken on to say, like, we're gonna make it easy for people to sing with us. We want that. We want the melody out front. We want people to be able to hear the melody of the song. So over the drums, over the bass, we want the sort of a melody forward, so that everybody can latch onto it. We also want ambient noise in the house. We want everybody to hear everybody singing. That's been really important as well. So it's just like to feel like you're not singing a solo on the 12th row by yourself. You've got, a room full of people that you can sort of just sing along with. It's been really important.
Also, I think too, sonically, transitions are super important between songs. So we really lean into a lot of ambient pads, even without, we don't do Ableton Live. We really just, we can hold pads for, I don't know, many measures, and Barry's beautiful, Barry's very gifted electric guitar pads too. So that just sort of all these sounds are just sort of creeping into the room. Also, we're asking the Spirit to come at the same time, so those transitions, I mean, I know you guys work so hard to make those soft but beautiful and layered, and so the transitions between songs are also really important.
Yeah, sometimes during transitions you can just feel the energy in the room sort of start coming up as we're transitioning from one to the next, and so everything moves as it should. In terms of vocals and vocalists, I notice that sometimes we'll choose harmony, sometimes we'll choose unison, sometimes we'll have gang vocals, is what we call it. We don't have a choir at Providence, so we don't have a traditional choir, but we will do something called gang vocals, where we'll have 6, 8, 12 people that they're singing as a gang. But how do you make those choices in terms of what when we're doing the songs? Is there a method to it, or is it just a feel?
Yeah, I definitely think the melody is really important, and that people are we really try to maybe do one or two harmonies, and it's after the melody has been established on a chorus. So really we don't do a lot of harmonies during a verse. It might be after we repeat a chorus, then we'll layer, just like you would, instrumentally. We're trying to layer vocals, so we're not hitting you out of the gate with like 8-part harmony, So it feels like that the message is a little stronger with just a single voice, and then adding in the harmonies. And we typically do that at a different. Obviously the background vocals are a different level. We've worked with that too. So yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think of the background vocals and the gang vocals sort of like you would hear it on a record, and like you would want to mix it. You would want to hear it mixed on a record, and so like on a verse 1, you're not going to have a harmony on a verse 1. On the first chorus, you're probably not going to have a harmony. There might be a little, it's like super faint. It might be super faint, and then on a verse 2, you might have a little bit something. But then like chorus 2 and into the bridges is where you're going to sort of start stacking. But then it's also going to sort of back off as the song ends. And I feel like that is that's where we've been in terms of like mixing harmonies and gangs into the live sound, right? Would you say that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So the intent is to help encourage and support the congregation singing, right? So as mixers, you'd be thinking, well, the band's up there doing their thing, and I'm just gonna make sure they can be heard. But thinking about, if you haven't before, thinking about what the intent of the leaders are and what they're trying to do to bring the congregation along is really helpful as you're mixing, because you're encouraging that. I mean, the mixing console is your instrument, right? So being able to do that, you have a lot of effect on what's going on in the congregation, in the sanctuary. So being aware of what the leaders are doing and why they're doing it can really help you kind of get into making the most of that mix and really bringing the worship experience to the level that it needs to be at.
And Jenny and I have so much trust in these guys. Like, these are our brothers, and we don't always speak the same language, but we connect, and they sort of interpret, what we're thinking, and they make it happen, and it's so beautiful. We've just learned so much from these guys, and I just have so much respect for anybody stepping into this spot, because it is difficult. There's a lot going on. There are just changes all the time, but I mean, we love these guys so much and what they're able to do. So
There should be like a workshop here that's like translating what the worship pastor and worship leader are saying for like to the sound people. Like, what do they actually mean? Like, that would be a really great workshop.
So maybe an app on the
shimmer.
Could you? Yeah. Could I get some sparklies? I don't. But I was just gonna say too, I think at the soundboard, what I love about Tevin back there is like he does treat the soundboard as his instrument, and so he is like a functioning member of our band. I mean, he's playing an instrument back there, and it has been so. It's been such a beautiful experience as a musician to be held so carefully, to have my vocal be cared for so carefully, and the keys and all these elements that we're working so hard on all week long, putting the players in the right place, choosing the right songs, and then he's sort of bringing it all together. When we meet as a team a lot, sometimes we'll talk about how what we do is really kind of creating a soundtrack for the worship of our church. We sort of are the soundtrack of their worship of the morning. And so what has been so beautiful is like Tevin really, he is open to the Spirit too, and knows when we're doing ambient pads, when we're transitioning from a moment, and it's a prayer, it's a clear feeling of the Spirit in the room. He knows how to just hold us in that space. He also knows when it's like you can feel it building and people want to sing out and people want to stand up and people want to raise their hands. He can feel that too, and he sort of helps us get there, and he knows when we can bring it down. So I think it's such a gift to have someone at the soundboard who's like thinking of his job as an instrumentalist and also as a spiritual leader on our team, like we all are. So it's been such a gift.
Excellent. See, did you know that?
No.
Okay. You do now. You're appreciated very much. So all of these things all work together, right? Everything works together in the service. And this is all important to engage our congregations, right? That's what we're trying to do. Let's talk a bit about the physical part of it. So how important is the physical layout of what we're doing, the stage, decorating, anything like that? How does that work? Because I know that the both of you do a lot, if not all of that, as part of. So it's not just music, they're actually taking care of what's going on visually as well.
Our space is super open. If you saw in the video, it's almost like a half moon. And so the stage actually kind of functions like that. It's almost like a half of circle. So we're kind of pushed out. It's super narrow. So early on, we knew that because visually you can sort of, wherever you're sitting, you can really see the stage. We wanted the stage itself to be just as clean as possible. So we've put in platforms, we've tried to hide cables, we try to keep the stage just dressed as neatly as possible. And that can be challenging when you're having multiple things there in a week. And so we do look at our week, we try to plan, we use the stage plot through Planning Center, which is amazing. You can just drag where you want everything to go. And so we don't do a ton of decorating because our space is, it's pretty industrial looking. We kind of like that. We just keep it pretty simple. We do have some grid work on the back wall, but it pretty much stays the same. As Christmas, we put stuff up, but it's definitely a pretty clean stage. We try to keep it as clean as possible.
And by doing that, that's another enhancement, right? It's not a distraction. So there's not always something different splashed on the wall. I think the point for me is it's very simple but very effective. So we don't have to spend a lot of money dressing a set and such to engage the congregation and to enhance the worship experience. Now, there's nothing wrong with that at all. If you have the budget and the time to have stage dressing and to do these things, that's perfectly fine. Our approach has been this one, a little more simple and straightforward, and it's worked really well. It's worked very well. Let me ask the question that's kind of in my mind, because I've always thought this kind of interesting. Song lyrics, hymnals versus on the screen. Thoughts? Really?
I
Yes.
mean, I don't have any thoughts. Like we don't have any hymnals.
We don't have hymnals, but
So, I mean, hymnals are a beautiful thing. It's like,
Mhm.
and it's such a nostalgic thing too. It's it's a beautiful thing that a room full of people can open and turn to the same page. And also, in the really like the glory days of the hymnals, is like a lot of people in churches read music and knew how to sing the harmonies, which is like, if you're going to sing from a hymnal, like let's have all the parts, like let's read the music and let's sing the song that way.
Right.
But it's like just sort of like there's a little bit of space between, the glory days of the hymnal and what's happening now. I mean,
I think we've moved away from hymnals.
we
for
also
the most
don't
part,
have
right?
those seat back pocket things to put a hymnal in. So
Right.
it's also, I mean, again, it's like we are a super simple church, and that is like kind of in our DNA. And so it is like, I mean, not to be dismissive of churches that do have hymnals, like it's a beautiful thing for a community. I really do think to like turn to this page and align your voices and read these words together, like that is a beautiful and sacred thing. We have just never had it. This has not been our culture, and also we're just such a simple space. Everything is so simple. It's like it would just be 2,000 like collecting 2,000 hymnals would just like doesn't feel like what would be right for Providence.
I think it's a cool thing too to look at your congregation and you see everybody's eyes. Everybody's face is up, and we are like there is really like this corporate factor that everybody's doing everything together. We are like holding each other, singing these words over each other, and they're singing back to us. It's like I see eyes, and can be a super humbling thing and a super emotional thing, and such a spot of privilege where we are. And so, yeah, I would miss that for sure. I love seeing the eyes and the faces. Yeah,
I think that's a big benefit, definitely, because it does make a difference. If you've done both or one or hymnals before, everyone does tend to be down. I've just always thought that's interesting with the choice. And Providence has always done lyrics on the screen, so we've never had hymnals. But in churches I've attended in the past, it's been hymnals, or there might be a songbook as well. So whatever choice that the church has made is fine.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it could be too, like we're a church plant, and so we
True.
were meeting in gyms and parks and movie theaters, so like schlepping
it didn't make a lot of
hymnals
sense.
around us, like we're already taking the chairs and every other
Right.
possible thing you need for church, like that was not on the list. Yeah,
Why carry a
so,
bunch of paper, right?
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of a fun thought there. So what we're talking about really is all of this goes into creating worship culture, and and all of it has been thought about quite a bit. It doesn't seem like things just happen spur of the moment type of thing. Let's talk about sort of getting everything set up. So prior to service, one of the questions that I think is always important is how do we get everybody on the same page? You mentioned planning center, but I'm thinking more about how do you communicate the vision? How do you get that to, from top to bottom, every member of the team? How do we do that?
I mean, it definitely takes time. Jeannie and I started, we're now in our 5th year, which seems unbelievable, but and then 4 years just being in our own space. I think being in your space does allow for time for community. It's really important to us that our band, we spend time together outside. The work is so much. We have a Thursday night service, 3 services on Sunday. They are similar services. The same crew plays Thursday night and Sunday, and we get notes at the beginning of the week. We come in at 5:30, we rehearse, we have service at 6:30. It is fast. And so with all that, it's just such a sacrifice our band does to provide worship for our church every week. It's really, really important. And it's for us to be together. And it's been harder since we've added the midweek service. Because Thursday night used to be our rehearsal night for Sunday. And now we are it's go time. And it used to be a little slower. We used to have time, more meals. And we're trying to implement that. It's just so important that we know each other on a deep level. We take communion every week together. We pray together. We love each other so much. And so, but that has taken time. That does not happen overnight with as fast as we all move. So, yeah.
So planning center is obviously the great tool for communicating the specifics. I know there's several other things that are a little bit unique. I think we have a team covenant that everyone is asked to read and to sign. So I don't know if anything needs to be said about that. It's
No more sweatpants.
no more sweatpants. I like my sweatpants.
That's Tevin's takeaway from that's the sound guy's takeaway from the team
No
covenant
sweatpants.
is no sweatpants.
No, please don't wear sweatpants.
Well,
Not on Sundays.
not on Sundays. Maybe just briefly the intent and the mechanics of the team covenant. It's not nearly as scary as it might sound.
No. It really is just about unity, and we have a high standard of unity, not necessarily sameness, but unity. That we have each other's back, and that we're sort of all seeking this journey together. It's a bunch of musicians, so musicians have opinions about how to rank their ideas over everyone else's ideas. So it just really is just like a way to say we love each other. We're on the same page. We're gonna represent the church well in the community. We're also on the stage every Sunday, and people see us, and they are our friends on Facebook, and they know us whether we know them. So we're gonna pay attention to how we drive and how we act in the grocery store, and how we're just gonna be sort of we're just gonna have a high standard for sort of how we live our lives, but also that we're gonna have each other's back, and that we're gonna seek God and chase hard after the heart of God, and do that together. And that makes the work of it when we're all hustling to get there on a Thursday by 5:30. We know why we're doing it. We know why we're getting there, and we are gonna walk in there, to a room of people that we love so much and are going to have such a deep shared experience. So that's the heart of the covenant, is just some unity, and not necessarily like a big moral code or anything like that. It's loose, but it does talk about sweatpants. Not the covenant. There's also a style guide, and the style guide is the no sweatpants. Sorry, buddy.
That's why I've been wearing jeans.
Sorry, buddy.
I think it's important because it's a focusing mechanism, I think, And you've already heard multiple times how we're a team in every sense of the word, and we're also a family. And that covenant it's no big deal. I can't remember even what all is on it, to be honest. But it just is a focusing device, and important to sort of know what's expected and how, because it is important. I mean, it just happened this week. You go to the grocery store and the guy bagging your groceries says, "Hey, you play guitar at Providence?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And we talked about the church. I'm like, I'd never seen him before, but he had seen me. So we have to be aware as we're out in the world that we are representing Christ in everything that we're doing. So the covenant is something simple, but it's been a helpful tool. We also have team gatherings. We'll have a meal together. We'll schedule an evening and we'll come together and we'll pray and talk. And I think that's extremely helpful once again, to focus us together. We have team technical days where we'll come in. We had a day to choose microphones for vocalists and a day to listen to in-ear monitors and different things like that. So we'll go whenever we can. It's getting harder with the fourth service.
It is, but you know what? To this room, who is, our sound, I assume mostly sound engineer types, like that, the gift of that for the worship leader, worship pastor, the musicians to say, like, because we generally call all the rehearsals, we generally bring the people in and we organize. So to have a day that's like actually the tech people, like, what would be the benefit of that? What if we all came in and you tested all of your equipment, or of course, our lead electric guitar player is like an expert at Spectrum and knows all the best gear, so he's bringing microphones for us to test. But that the to choose a microphone that really brings out the beauty of each person's vocal, and all test the sound, push the levels, like experiment with reverb and delay. And so just that was such a gift to just be able to sit up there without any time constraints and just like let the booth sort of say, just play some music. I'm just working on some stuff up here. Let's try this gear. Let's switch out this gear and try something different. Try different in-ear monitors. Try different microphones.
It's truly a gift to be able to do that. And of course, we don't all get to do that, right? That's one thing that's helpful about being able to multi-track services. So you can go back and practice on your own as well. However, as great as that is, there's nothing like having the live musicians there. And especially if you want to, choosing the microphone that matches the voice. How often do we get the chance to do that? It's wonderful to spend the time. And also, once again, we're trying to take what we're doing, and we want to do everything with excellence. We want to always be doing it the best that we can. This is just one more step that we can do. Also lets our team know and our leaders know how much we appreciate them by giving them some input, not just saying, "Here's your mic, singing it," or just it's like, here's your bass, play the bass. So basically, I think we've covered that. That's sort of, once again, part of the culture is that everyone is on the same page. We know what's expected. We know what's going to happen. And then God steps in and things happen and we're prepared for it. So we just go with the flow at that point. And those times are pretty wonderful, actually. So talking about technical things, let's talk about when the band comes in and it's pre-service. We basically have about 40 minutes, 45 minutes to do a run through. Depends how late Wes might be.
Drummer, he's always late. Drummer's always late.
Yeah. So we've got about 40 minutes to do a run through prior to a service. What are we doing prior to that? What type of setup has to be done before we walk in to drop off? And that's probably more on you, Tevin.
Well, typically, when I come in on Thursdays and stuff, I'm setting up for. Well, typically I've been and did it like the previous Sunday-ish, depending on like how many days I gotta come that week. But I kind of prep before the Thursday, which is like our first service for the week. When I first come in, I kind of try to help them out, because I remember when I first came, how much, like my first time working for them and doing something for them, they had so much stuff just laid out for me that it was pretty much like they knew how to do the entire job and they just needed somebody to like run favors for the day. Like that's how prepared and like well prepped they were when they came in. I had never seen nothing like that before in my life. So then now, like when I come in, I try to do stuff like turn on the projectors, make sure all the batteries and stuff change, turn on all the P16s that we got for the in-ear monitors on stage, turn on lights whenever I remember to do them. But it's just typical like little run through stuff that I kind of do just to make sure when they walk in, they can just come in and focus on praising God, worshiping, focusing on exactly on their part of the gig, and then I kind of just take care of all of the technical stuff, like the little small stuff. Even though they kind of already done handled it before, but just managing what's managed.
Well, and that really kind of sets the tone as we're walking in. If Tevin is running frantically around trying to find cables and fix something and such, it's not conducive to the spirit of worship, right? It's confusing. It's you come in, I don't know what to do, or hey, my direct box is gone. So those type of things might seem minor, but as much preparation ahead of time that you can do is wonderful and is really a blessing to the team.
I mean, we get tears in our eyes sometimes. We'll walk into the worship center and the stage is set. The stage is dressed so beautifully. The cables are coiled up. They're like Velcro to the ground. All the monitors are where they're supposed to be. The mics are at the perfect height. I mean, he's like, guess how tall everyone is. It's like, and we just walk in and are like, yes, I'm going to walk up there and I'm going to practice my part of this because I don't have to do a single other thing. Like that is his lane and he has taken it and he does it with excellence. And the rest of us are sort of free to step in, to plug in. And we've done the thing where it's like, my cable's not working, my pickup's not working. We've done the right up to the last minute when it's like, actually, we just have to open the doors and people are coming in now. So we didn't get to rehearse. We've done that, and it's not super fun.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, and it's not super fun. So to have this, Tevin preps us, whatever, so say we've got some 3 worship services on Sunday, and then we have also a care night on Tuesday night, which is sort of a care ministry, and that will have worship. So on Sunday, after the last service, he will prep for Tuesday night. And after Tuesday night, the stage will get prepped for Wednesday night, which is the student ministry worship night. And so then after that's over, the stage will get prepped for the next thing. So it's like the sound person, like Tevin is like always prepping for the next thing, like not leaving until the stage is set for the next thing. And it's set beautifully.
Preparation, I think we've heard this several times, is always the key to things running smoothly. I've got all kinds of questions here. Attitude, though, as audio tech, as a video tech, a person doing pro presenter, your attitude is critical, and that's where everything starts. And the team sort of can feed off that from the positive standpoint, or it can feed off it from a negative standpoint. So we always want to try to be positive. And everyone has a bad day, but in general, attitude is going to get you to where you're going, if it's a good one, pretty quickly. Let's talk just for a second about how do you handle someone on the team who's kind of going sideways? I'm talking about musically at this point. Is there a, I kind of have it in my notes, just someone that's going off the chart, someone that's we don't have this problem, I don't think, but is there anything that you've encountered in the past that's helpful in terms of if someone's kind of veering off maybe the vision of the team, anything like that?
We have had that, yes. Okay. We have really felt like hard, honest conversations and dealing with it head first, as hard as it is the best way. And we approach it with tenderness and lots of prayer. We talk to our pastors about it before we have to have a hard conversation, but we feel like the longer, if there's something happening and we're not addressing it, it seeps into everything. It does. It's like if one member of our team is like something's happening in their personal life or even, we have a skill issue that we didn't see during the audition process, we have to address it. And I think that is like the hardest part of the job, right? We want everybody to feel that's on our team. We want them to feel like they have a spot and we love them. But I mean, and it is, especially in the South, it's like this Midwest Westerner over here has really helped me because I'm like, oh, maybe no. She's like, no, we got it. And I think it's really been hard. But the fruit that has come out of like honest conversations. We have restored relationships after conversations. We have just so much fruit and beauty, have come out of that. Not always, but more often than not. Something that we had dreaded talking about or addressing, usually we'll like, okay, we can move on to the next. So, and usually people stay on the team or figure something else out. But it's that those honest conversations are always, it's better to have them.
I felt that was important to ask, because even from a team member standpoint, sometimes it's having that understanding of how things will be handled can be very helpful. So there can be technical questions, or there can be artistic questions or musical questions, and knowing what to expect from your leaders is a good thing. Okay. So when we're in rehearsals, once again, communication is the key, right? You need to be able to communicate to your team members, communicate on the platform, and also in the tech booth. Let's talk a bit about sort of the execution of the service. So we're trying to communicate with the congregation, and let's talk just a little bit about the physical aspects of communicating. There was a phrase that we used at one point called "check your face," and what does that mean?
Yeah. So it can, before we've had some seasons where we didn't have just the depth of unity that we have now. So I think I would not have to say check your face.
It has been a while, yes.
It has been a while. But it is so important to me that sort of no matter what has happened, no matter how frazzled we are, no matter what, whether we got to rehearse or didn't, that when, people walk in the doors, that that they feel disarmed, that they feel like they can settle in and take deep breaths, and that they'll be held in a worshipful state. And so it's just so important to me that when we walk out of the doors onto the platform, that our faces say, we love to be here, and we love each other, and we can't wait to worship. And so we're not being fake. We're not making like fake happy countenances, right? But we're saying, we're in it together. And so whatever just happened is over. Maybe I didn't get my mix right in my ears. Maybe maybe the drummer was off and wasn't, with me, or maybe the bass and the drum player were not together, or, maybe it was just a disaster, whatever. When it's time to walk out and worship, we're just going to say, Lord, come, Lord, come on, because we're going to go for it. We're going to go for it. And our job is to invite people to worship the living God. And we feel like such a responsibility there. And so it matters to me so much that that our faces communicate. We love you, and we love the Lord, and we are here to serve you, this church. And so I've had to say a few times. One time, in the heat of a moment, I had to turn my back to a person on the team, and just because his face was saying, "I'm super angry. I'm frustrated. I don't know what's going on." He was just also was at another team member, and I just had to say, "You need to check your face." And so now it's a thing that we check our faces. Because it was nasty. It was just nasty. And the vision of our church is to see disconnected people find hope, healing, and wholeness in Jesus. And so we have a lot of people who have been hurt by the church. That's in our DNA, disconnected people coming back to church. And so what I don't want them to see on the platform is a bunch of infighting and nothing on our faces.
And I think it's extremely important, not just from people up front, but for us back in the booth as well, because we don't want to be projecting that to our team on the platform. Also, the congregation sees that. They see more than you think a lot of times. So that attitude, once again, we talked about that earlier, that really sort of permeates what's going on. And I think it's really important that the entire team is aware of that. And the check your face to me is just a phrase I thought has always been kind of unique. But check your face, exactly. So how about from the spiritual side? How do we prepare spiritually before the service? We've already talked a little bit about this, but just briefly, what type of things are we going to do? Because there's something pretty specific that will follow leading into services. make the pastor talk about it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we will rehearse as best we can. We'll run the set before the service starts, and in that time, it's not a nuts and bolts time. Like, we did not rehearse. We did not have really. It's just a quick run through, sort of sound check. But we do want to let all the singers get to sing through all their transitions and play through any transitions. But what that time is really is just a centering time. Like, everybody, let's sit into these songs, and then after that we meet backstage and our pastors come and we have communion before worship on Thursday nights, before worship on Sunday mornings, and that has been really special. Just a time to look at each other in the face, because we're sort of all sitting in a semicircle, on a Sunday. So just stand in a circle and see each other, and yeah, just to have a second to catch our breath together has been.
And that may be a little uncommon on a rushed Sunday morning or a rushed Thursday evening. Maybe not for you. And if so, I think it's great. But that our rehearsals, our run-throughs always start with prayer. And they're not a short prayer necessarily. It's also not minutes and minutes, but that prayer brings us in. It centers us once again. And communion prior to the service also just helps connect us to the body of Christ. And that is extremely important. So everything we're doing is spiritually grounded from that sense. How about from the mental side? I mean, we're doing 3 services on a Sunday. We had an instance recently where we had a funeral directly after that, or there may be a special event. How do we stay mentally sharp, musically and technically over a long day?
Do we?
Well, that was the question.
Do we?
Do
I don't
we?
think that we have an expert opinion on that.
So there's no expert opinion. Okay, we'll move along from
We have
that.
lots of snacks
Snacks.
backstage.
Snacks and couches.
Snacks and coffee?
Snacks and
Okay,
coffee
so
and
snacks and coffee
sofas.
pretty much.
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard because it is like 3 services. They're boom, boom, boom. 12 noon, we're done, and we've been there since 7 a.m., 6 o'clock sometimes, and it is like it takes you're definitely physically and then
Mhm.
So I think, but snacks help.
Snacks helps.
Well, and a lot of us, we've kind of had to make a decision like Saturday night. If you can do it, if you can stay up and do what you need to do on Sunday, that's great. I have got to go to bed, and I've sort of my voice, everything. I wake up and sometimes I don't always get a great night's sleep. But for me, as we have added services and added things, if I'm not rested, it's not good. So
like anything else, rest is key.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk just briefly about mixing and about sound. The question is always, who are we mixing for? So I always want to keep in mind who we're mixing for and why are we doing it. We're coming at this from the place of having a servant's heart, and that's what we want to project all the time. So how do we kind of determine the mechanics of the mix? We've got speech, we've got the music. Tevin, how do you sort of approach mixing from that standpoint of trying to make sure the message is clear? Is there any certain ways you like to approach that, or any techniques you're using?
Message in terms of like the song, or
Yeah.
well, for me, just kind of overall in general, right? I mean, I've been there for like a year. I mean, we was kind of talking earlier. I mean, you go into rooms that you don't know and you mix and you hear stuff a certain way. Nobody else in the room hears it the way that you hear, right? It's so subjective. So one of the things that I've been leaning on to kind of make sure that I've been making sure like I'm staying in line with what the message is of the song, what the vibe is for this particular season, right, is one, watching the congregation, because they kind of tell me if it's good or not, right? No matter what I think my opinion is, right? If I don't see multiple people, I mean, because there's some people who just aren't going to move regardless of what you do, how good it sounds, or what. Some people just aren't going to move. But if I can look around and see like, okay, I see people kind of getting lost in the song, kind of getting lost in the music, that I'm kind of achieving what was intended in the beginning. Because I mean, I've been there for a year, so I've had the opportunity to watch like how everything has kind of changed. I've gotten feedback from people walking by the booth and telling me what they thought and all of that kind of stuff. Which, you know, you just kind of smile and cry on the inside. But I mean, but at the end of the day, you take it and it's helpful. Because I mean, there's stuff that they're listening to. And then it started making me do stuff like, okay, well, I'm mixing from here, but everybody's listening out there. Maybe I should go walk out there every now and then to see what's going on out there. Mixing from audience perspective, or, you know, if I'm not seeing the crowd like into it, like what am I doing? And then watching them on stage too, because once the crowd start reacting, then them on stage, they see that and then they start giving me more and different stuff. And it's like, it's just a feeling that just started taking over. And like, if we can hit that feeling like every time and like have the spirit like in the room, like, because if it's a disconnect with anything, like people are gonna be like, that's all I'm thinking about, and they can't get lost and they can't have that moment or like their moment that they actually need. So it's just kind of trying to stay in line and watching them and seeing what's going on, and then watching them and then watching Jacob for him to be like,
That's our he doesn't do that. He doesn't. So when you're doing all that, what's the magic SPL number in the room? Everyone wants to know.
Magic 1,000. As loud as possible.
Right.
No. I don't think there is a magic SPL number, especially with a wide range of people that we have in our church, from 6 years old, 2 years old, children, like baby children, in there to elderly, you know, are more elderly. So for me, like 85, 90 could be comfortable for, you know, the 5-10 minutes that we sit in there, right? But for somebody else, it might not be. So again, that's just kind of, now it's been a year since I've been at the church, so I kind of know where I can push certain songs, or like which songs have that like super top, like some songs that we do play, like it kind of arch up and it's like a little up there, but that's fine. But then it's just figuring out ways of, if I do have to get that loud, how can I be that loud without it being over abrasive, right? Like having stuff like too much top end or too much transients and stuff, that'll definitely make getting higher SPL seem more pleasing, right? If I can kind of make all of that level actually be RMS stuff, and I can win that battle and have it still feeling smooth and still kind of loud, and you can still feel the energy that translates to what they play, giving it back to the audience, and then it's just like a full circle kind of thing.
Yeah, so keep that top nice and smooth and support it well from the bottom, and you can get away with more SPL than you think.
Right. Like our church is like 90, but sometimes that 90 feels like, am I too loud? Like, what's going on? But it's just, it feels right.
And just lastly, I want to touch on video and live streaming. And Jeana, that's been the area that you've been heading up for the last year and a half or so. So why did we live stream? Just briefly, what was the point behind that?
We talked about it a lot before we did it. We knew that we wanted to do it well. We talked about all sorts of different, we needed to establish our why. We were not just going to live stream just because every other church was doing it. We also, Jenny and I, our musicianship is so high, we wanted to make sure that would be representative in a live stream or our videos that we would be putting out on the internet. And so it took us a while. We talked a lot about our church is, our vision is, Jenny said, for disconnected people. And our first touch, a lot of people will look at your social, they'll look at your website, what I want to know more about this church before I actually walk in the building. We just forget how brave it is for visitors to come into a church. And so we wanted to sort of just give a little bit more information. Our pastor is also a pretty respected speaker in our denomination. He travels the country. He is an author. And so that would also be a little bit more of teaching. He's a teacher as well. And so people that aren't local could check us out, check out his teaching, get more familiar with that. So there were a few different factors. But yeah, it took us a while. We really thought we're just going to post the sermons because the music, it's difficult. It's difficult to capture what's happening in a room on a live stream mix. And so we did a lot of work to get our mix right. We're still working on it. Right before we walked in here, we were actually talking about it. We were like, okay, what do we need to do? We're constantly talking about listening back and trying to get our engineers to, how can we communicate different things or different things we heard from week to week.
So I was originally against the live stream. I was afraid it would change what worship was like. And I was wrong, because it really didn't change worship. We weren't playing to cameras. And I think that's an important thing to remember. If you're currently doing a live stream or if you're thinking about starting, it's a great tool. It's just something else that's a wonderful thing to have access to. So I think it's turned out really well and has been very successful. So we have some songs we wanted to play for y'all. And so if you would, let's move over and we're going to play a couple things. I know this is not a church necessarily, but wherever 2 or 3 or more are gathered, right? Yeah, you can just put it down, it'll be fine. And then Tevin, just mute those. And hopefully we'll have some lyrics. So if you feel led, if you'd like to sing along with us, I'd like to encourage that. And the first song we're going to be playing is actually a song written by Jeana, and right, yeah. And I think you want to say just a little bit about it.
Well, just even just thinking speaking to our sort of creative partnerships that we have with our pastors, because we know thematically what's coming all the time. Just like we also have a lot of songwriters on the team, so lots of people are writing songs and. But yeah, our pastor was preaching a sermon series on Nehemiah, and at the same time, some of our kids of our church staff members were just having a hard time, just sort of struggling, not wanting to go to school, and just sort of feeling the weight of, I guess, being a kid in the world, and they were frustrated, and so our staff was having this. Just sort of prayer time for our kids. And so this song, we were just sitting in the story of Nehemiah, and this song sort of came, and now it's become kind of an anthem for our church. We sing it all the time. It's everyone has t-shirts. It's called Brave and Strong, so yeah.
Defeat has robbed your joy. blessings flow, praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above the heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above the heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above the heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Hey, all right. Amen. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I don't know if you have any questions, anything you want to ask about or talk about, the things that we do at Providence or just things in general. We're happy to answer any questions. Thank you once again for coming. Thank you for coming to this event. I hope that it has blessed you and will have all kinds of great ideas to bring back to your home church and your technical team. And just God bless you all. Thank you so much for coming tonight.